I recently picked up the hard copy of The Flash Rebirth by Geoff Johns, and with the new Superman trailer out, it feels like the perfect time to dive into some DC content. One thing I've been missing is the Reverse Flash at his peak. Say what you want about the Flash series on the CW, but in my opinion, Season 5 gave us the smartest, most manipulative version of Eobard thawne we've ever seen. Season 5 Reverse Flash was peak. Let's be real, Cicada was a flop. The storyline had its issues, but Reverse Flash, he was him. The way he schemed and played the timeline to perfection in Season 5 made him the only villain in the entire series to actually win. Zoom, Savitar, DeVoe, they all got defeated by the end of their seasons, but thawne, he escaped. He created a new timeline, kept his memories intact, and sacrificed Nora to twist the knife deeper into Barry. That's what you call kill two birds with one stone. thawne's Season 5 plan was foolproof. He offered Team Flash an impossible choice. Either stop Cicada or stop him. No matter what they chose, he win, and he knew it. Even when Sherlock Wells was onto him and Barry discovered thawne was working with Nora, he didn't flinch. Instead, he manipulated everyone, taunted Barry, caused Barry and Iris to clash, and struck fear into the entire team. What made this version of Reverse Flash so terrifying? It wasn't just his intelligence, it was the fact that he wore the face of Barry's former mentor, a twisted reminder of the manipulation from Season 1. Nora was a clear reflection of what happened to Barry in Season 1. Barry was right. thawne could never be trusted to work with, and Nora paid the price for that. That's what made him so dangerous. Season 2 and 3 had his past versions, but never wore Harrison Wells' face and had not experienced teaching Barry. And Season 4, he was just hanging around for fun at that point. But in Season 5, thawne was back to his cold, calculated self. He used his previous timeline encounters with Barry and Nora as leverage, scheming from prison and orchestrating events so perfectly that Nora's fate became inevitable. Eobard felt even more dangerous in this particular time vault scene, as he immediately guessed who Nora was just by looking at her. He may have also figured this out because Barry seemed overprotective and assumed a defensive stance when thawne was asking about Nora. What's interesting is that I feel that thawne may have guessed that Nora's plan to stop the dagger was his own plan that was created either by a future or past version of himself. He seems to slightly acknowledge this as he stared at both Barry and Nora, refusing to believe that Nora could actually come up with this idea, but then deciding to avoid suspicion, he simply states "clever girl." thawne didn't know Ralph was alive in this timeline. Nora never mentioned him, and that tiny oversight was the only crack in his plan. This was actually mentioned when thawne and Team Flash had their final confrontation in Season 5, where thawne says,
"We should be dead."
I guess we have that in common.
Ralph was a lucky anomaly. Ralph figured out thawne's goal and ultimately discovered his plan. Sherlock was there but a step behind. If Ralph was never there in the first place, thawne could have escaped without having to confront Team Flash. What a foolproof plan. And yet, even with that misstep, thawne got where he wanted. He escaped, leaving Barry in shambles and Nora fading away. Imagine the genius of turning a past encounter into an elaborate victory years later. The way thawne defeated both Barry and Nora single-handedly in the final battle without struggling was proof of his dominance. If it weren't for Barry's team stepping in, thawne could have crushed them. Eobard was even more cunning than expected. He guilt-tripped Nora by apologizing for the murder of Nora Allen and continuously expressed his guilt over it. He even had Barry fooled by misdirecting him, telling him he was going to die soon, fooling him and everyone else. Shit, he had me fooled, and I seriously thought he was sorry and perhaps changed a little because of Nora's influence on him. This was one of the best twists I've ever seen. thawne only works for himself. I thought this version of thawne brought so much to the table. Because of his involvement, we got to see deeper writing for characters like Barry and Nora. The interaction in the time vault felt so authentic. The dialogue, tone, and setting all captured how two opposites who had been fighting each other for years would talk. It provided so much depth to both Barry and thawne's characters. Season 1 thawne was close to perfection, but even he made mistakes like revealing himself as Eddie's descendant and underestimating Eddie's resolve. If thawne had stashed Eddie away and actually used him as insurance, he would have won. Still, that doesn't take away from how iconic Season 1 was. Now let's talk about where things went downhill. Eric Wallace's take on Reverse Flash completely completely degraded the character. Instead of being the calculated menace that we knew, thawne became a generic powerhouse, relying more on brute force than strategy. And don't even get me started on his Season 8 suit. It looked like someone slapped yellow onto Barry's Season 6 suit. It worked for Barry, but not for Reverse Flash. Another thing that made the original thawne so menacing was his phasing while talking with his mask on. That vibrating voice distinguished him as a threat, adding an eerie vibe to every scene along with the dark yellow stained suit. But after Season 7, those iconic details disappeared. By Season 8, he looked more like a corny side villain than Barry's greatest rival. It looked like a Flash fan cosplaying Reverse Flash. The black suit, awful. The Reverse Flashpoint in Armageddon was an amazing concept, but it was filled with holes. Barry casually defeated him in one episode. What the heck was that planning? And the fact that he was defeated in under 5 minutes by a teenager with 3 years of battle experience and writing newspapers in Season 9, this was the same Reverse Flash who once outmaneuvered everyone and struck fear into Team Flash. Seeing how far he fell was painful. At least Matt Lesher's Reverse Flash had a respectable send-off. Tom Cavanaugh deserved better. Overall, I'm just glad the show ended. Eric Wallace's decisions made each season worse than the last, dragging down the villains with it. But hey, Season 5 Reverse Flash will always stand out as the peak of his character. His plan, his execution, and his sheer ability to manipulate everything around him made him unforgettable.